Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're doing another TBR video. If you've seen these before, you know how they work. I give a few that are absolutely will be read this month, no questions asked, often associated with a buddy read or some reading project that I'm doing. And then I'll usually have a few that are like maybes, like, ooh, if I'm in the mood, or if I feel like this one or that one. So we'll get right into it. We will say the top priority for this month, and it's been mentioned in at least one, maybe two other videos, is we're going to be doing it. We're finally pulling the trigger on a book that's been on the TBR for a very long time. It is arguably one of the most famous pieces of not arguably, it is one of the most famous pieces of historical fiction ever written. Arguably one of the most famous books ever written. Well beloved by many here on BookTube, and I want to get into reading more historical fiction. I think I've mentioned that before. And so this is going to be the first big step towards that. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Pillars of the Earth, The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I'm going to be reading this alongside Jordan from iWizard. This is going to be the third book that we have read together recently, and man, I could not be more excited for this. This book is big. It is a beast, but I don't think... Well, no, I can think of only one person that I know of who read this book and did not love it. I consistently hear from people, 5 out of 5 stars, amazing, one of the best novels they've ever read. Those are pretty high expectations, so I'm kind of tampering them a little bit, but I'm excited to read this. My understanding is that it is the story of a town in medieval England building a cathedral, I think over 70 years. Over several generations. So I've been told there's some pretty despicable bad guys, but also a lot of interesting religious stuff, as you would expect with building a cathedral. So very excited for this. Will be read for sure this month. The next book that we'll talk about here, that's for sure, is going to be The Ill-Earth War by Stephen R. Donaldson. This is book 2 in his Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. I said buddy reads were a part of this. The Ill-Earth War I am reading alongside Jake from Nerd Level Rising and Zachary Shea. So two of my good friends here on book 2. We've been reading the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever. And there was a bit of a gap between book 1 and this one. And so I lost a little bit of my momentum, unfortunately, because of that. But Jake recently read this, and he said, blew him away. Knocked his socks off. He liked book 1 probably even a bit more than I did, and I liked book 1 a good bit, but he really liked this one, and has teased me on a couple of points, has just like whetted my appetite a little bit. So I'm going to be perfectly honest. Lord Foulsbane, book 1, has a reputation. I have no clue where the series is going after Lord Foulsbane, so I am interested to see where it goes after this in book 2, The Ill-Earth War. I'm going to get to one last one here, and this one maybe doesn't count because it's a novella or a short story, depending on who counts it. I mean, in this copy that I have, it's like 150 pages, so yeah, we're definitely, well, nope, not even. Never mind, it's in the middle. It's only 50 pages. I think that counts as a short story, but still, I plan on reading The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy. I have never read Tolstoy, but I am doing a bit of a reading project, reading a group of short stories that were selected by another booktuber, and we will be discussing them and short stories in general. And Death of Ivan Ilyich was one of the ones that was selected. So I've had this on my radar for a few years now. Obviously, Tolstoy is a legend, so I've had him just generally on my to-read radar for a while. So I've been told this one is depressing. But I don't mind that. So, yeah, that is short enough that we're not going to have it take up a full entry, but I just wanted to give a brief shout out to that. And so we'll say as one last one, and this will sort of be the bridge in between the yeses and the maybes, and that is, man, I want to read some more DJ Butler. Last month, I read The Cunning Man and the Jupiter Knife by D.J. Butler and Aaron Michael Ritchie, and not only were those some of my favorite books of last month, those are some of my favorite books that I've read all year, so I want to read some more D.J. Butler. I have some friends who have been trying to get me to read the Witchy War books by him for a while, so I might have to finally pull the trigger and do that. Otherwise, I know he has a Indiana Jones style time travel novel series called The Time Trials. So if I don't do Witchy War, or the Witchy Eye books, I might do that one. But of course, the other option is his Dying Earth, his Indrajit and Fix Dying Earth books, which the first one is In the Palace of Shadow and Joy. And this has got to be one of my favorite book covers, certainly of DJ Butler's books. I think this is probably my favorite cover, and probably one of my favorite like sci-fi covers in general. So I've wanted to get to this one for a while because I know it's sort of a... I know Butler is a big fan of Gene Wolfe, who wrote Dying Earth novels, but he also said that this sort of is paying homage also to the cantina scene in Star Wars. You know, when Luke and Obi-Wan go in and meet with Han and Chewie, and there's the band playing in the corner. And in that scene, there's this like weird, diverse cast of like random aliens, very absurd alien types. I know DJ Butler plays around with that a lot in like different variants of like human evolution, or the way humans have mutated over thousands, if not millions of years. So yeah, I'm excited to get to this. So if it's not this or Witchy Eye, it'll be Time Trials. Most likely. So I'm not sure. I want to read more DJ Butler. I suspect he will be an author who really connects with me. Let's get to the maybes here. And I don't have a, well, I was going to say I don't have a ton, but that's not true. I have a good selection here. The first is, I know I had The Death of Ivan Ilyich, but that barely counts because it's a short story. At the beginning of the year, I said I want to try reading more classics, maybe like one a month. And that hasn't happened. I've dropped off that pretty quickly, so I'm gonna float something out there. I'm not committing to it, but I'd say maybe. Because I've had this on my shelf and on my TBR for a while. And this is H. Rider Haggard, King Solomon's Mines. So I know this is written in a similar style as, like, say, Robert E. Howard or Edgar Rice Burroughs or even Jules Verne, in this, like, adventure, swashbuckling type of story. So I've not read this, but I loved those books when I was younger, especially the Tarzan novels and Jules Verne's books. So I'm generally familiar with this. I think I read an abridgment when I was younger, but I'm looking forward to reading it. Sounds interesting, and I've never read H. Rider Haggard before, so yeah, it's on the list. Another maybe is going to be, I know I put, let's see here, the first Vorkosigan book by Lois McMaster Bujold on the maybe of last month's rather. I'm going to kind of bump it because I didn't get to it, but I'm going to bump it with a different Bujold book, and you'll see why in a second. And this is The Spirit Ring by Lois McMaster Bujold. Her name always trips me up. I believe this one is a fantasy novel, a fantasy standalone that she wrote, rather than Vorkosigan, which is obviously book one in a much larger series. But I picked this up at a thrift store on a whim. And if you watch my conversation with Jake, you already will know this. But I was talking with Jake from Nerd Level Rising recently on his live chat that he does. And I was just showing him something about this. Oh, it's an older fantasy novel. When was this published? And when I flipped it open, inside, it was signed. I picked this up for $1.50 at my local thrift store. And it was signed by Lois McMaster Bujold. So that's shocking. If you watch the replay, you'll see I'm literally in shock. So if for no other reason than that, Spirit Ring has been bumped up the TBR. Okay, I said at the beginning of the year I also want to get to one self-published novel. I don't know if that will happen this month or not, but if it does, it is likely to be one of two. Either A Haunt for Jackals by J.L. Odom, which is book 2 in her Land of Exile series. I read book 1, which is by Blood by Salt, and very much enjoyed it. It is definitely one of my favorite self-published fantasy novels that I've read, so I'd like to get to book 2. I'm not sure when book 3 comes out, but I'd like to be current on it, because book 1 was excellent, and I've heard from some people who have read book 2 that it's even better. If I don't read that, then it'll probably be Mushroom Blues by Adrian Gibson. I know that one's fungal punk, as he calls it. It's like noir, weird fiction, maybe with a taste for like China medieval. So that sounds interesting to me. I like detective noir stories, so that one sounds right up my alley. But the last one is kind of going to be like the biggest gamble of them all. And this is sort of where my TBR got derailed last month and has potential to derail this month's. I used to, it's not like, oh, before BookTube, and now BookTube's ruined my reading. Like, none of that. It was just a habit I had when I was younger and had less options to read. I would binge through series. I would start at the beginning, and when I was done, would pick up the next book, and when I was done with that, pick up the next book, all the way through until the end of the series. And I don't do that as much anymore, because I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And the times where I have done that, I've really, really enjoyed it. I did that with Book of the New Sun when I read it for the first time. I did that with the first law books when I read them the first time. And I always come away going like, oh man, I love doing that. And this last month, I've been doing that with The Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. Wasn't even on my TBR, wasn't on my radar, but I picked them up and they have been great. I think I'm going to do a dedicated video just on Long Price Quartet. So I'm considering that may happen again this month. And there's a couple of options for what I might end up going with. One of the ones that crossed my mind was the Hanavar books by Howard Andrew Jones. Those look really interesting. But we're going to throw out there, potentially, the Empire of the Wolf books by Richard Swan. Those have come out over the last few years. They've been highly praised. They sound very much up my alley, but I also recently picked up Grave Empire by Richard Swan. So even if I don't get to his trilogy anytime soon, I might pick this one up and read this sooner rather than later. It's a flintlock fantasy. It sounds up my alley, maybe with some horror elements in there. So, anyway, guys, that's a lot of books. This is why it's called the maybe section, because it's like, here's just generally what's on my radar. But what do you guys plan on reading in the next month? If you care, let me know. I'm always interested to see what people have got coming up. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it wasn't a complete waste of your time. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.